Ever wondered why 92% of Filipinos fail their New Year's resolutions by February? It is the willpower trap. We run like crazy sa hamster wheel, expecting a macro-level life shift using nothing but micro-level grit. Statistically, hindi sapat ang tiwala lang. Data point Lee, as a behavioral analyst, I see this cyclical failure every day. Nagiging biktima tayo ng false hope syndrome. It is a psychological delusion where we overestimate our capacity to override neural hardwiring through sheer enthusiasm. Ang senaryo, susubukan mong mag-gym sa BGC after a 10-hour shift. Mag-keto diet habang may Noche Buena leftovers pa at mag-aral no stocks. You are over-leveraging your mental capital. In the corporate world, we call this a recipe for operational collapse. The technical term is cognitive overload. Kapag sagad na ang stress mo dahil sa traffic, sa EDSA at sa workload, your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, shuts down. Your brain reverts to its default behavioral pathways to conserve energy. It is a feedback loop of failure. This relapse isn't just a temporary setback, it is a structural regression. Babalik ka sa dati mong gawi. And the metabolic and psychological rebound often leaves you in a worse state than your baseline. Kung nararanasan mo ang ganitong cyclical fatigue, your initial diagnostic is probably self-blame. Iniisip mo na ikaw ang depektibo, na low tier ang level ng iyong self-discipline. It's a classic cognitive trap, negative. Let's recalibrate that perspective. Ang problema ay hindi ang iyong character. Ang root cause ay ang flawed system architecture, ang iyong behavioral change strategy. Your foundation is built on unstable variables. To optimize your output, we need to deploy a high-efficiency framework. Ngayon, ituturo ko sa inyo ang isang synthesis ng 5 specific Japanese behavioral concepts designed for operational excellence: Ikigai, Kaizen, Harahachibu, Wabi-sabi, and Gambaru. This isn't just philosophy. It is a tactical methodology to re-engineer your nervous system and bypass your brain's natural cognitive resistance bago natin i-deconstruct ang system na ito at simulan ang iyong behavioral overhaul. Hit that subscribe button to join our network of high-performing individuals seeking data-driven insights. I-document sa comment section ang inyong primary behavioral metrics, anong habit ang pinakagusto mong i-optimize sa iyong personal operating system para sa maximum ROI ng iyong energy. Chapter 1. The Systemic Collapse. I-analyze natin ang case study ni Chris. 40 years old, weighing 142 kilos, isang statistical profile ng metabolic inefficiency na dulot ng environmental stressors. Si Chris ang arketype ng Filipino breadwinner. Isang logistics manager na bihasa sa supply chain. Pero ang sarili niyang mobility ay hostage ng high-friction environment ng Metro Manila traffic. Departure at 0500 hours. Arrival at 1,900 hours. Ang kanyang daily routine ay hindi na lifestyle. It's a grind protocol where he functions as a resource provider, bypassing his own physiological maintenance. Ang kanyang nutrition protocol, high-sodium fast food consumed in transit, caffeine-induced alertness sa opisina at pag-uwi, a sedentary recovery phase sa harap ng TV. This is a baseline for systemic failure. By 6 p.m., we are observing a total saturation of his cognitive bandwidth. This is a critical depletion of executive function. Wala nang natitirang residual energy for emotional labor at home, much less for self-actualization protocols during weekends. Chris defaults to maladaptive compensatory mechanisms. We see high-calorie surges from pizza and beer paired with hyper-sedentary recovery. It's an unsustainable attempt to offset his weekly cortisol spikes. The physiological hardware is already sending systemic warning signals. Dyspnea during minor incline navigation, hingal sa hagdan, and a significant decrease in mobility index. Simple motor tasks are now high-friction operations, but the most high-impact variable in this equation is his 7-year-old daughter. The data is clear. She has already conditioned herself to expect zero engagement. This is a massive deficit in his long-term social capital within the family unit. Our records show 3 failed optimization cycles, low-carb diets, gym memberships, morning jogs, all suffered from a regression to the mean. Without a structural paradigm shift, his motivation will always hit a plateau and collapse. Sa point na ito, na-develop na ni Chris ang psychological state of learned helplessness. He essentially surrendered to a false narrative of genetic determinism. Tanggap na niya na ito na ang default setting ko. And he ceased all optimization efforts. Isang Sabado, the system hit a critical threshold. Habitual observation. Naglalaro ang anak niyang lalaki sa bakuran, unaware that a systemic failure was about to manifest in his father. Tumalsik ang bola sa ilalim ng nga halaman. Simple retrieval task. Right? Pinulot ito ni Chris. Pero upon reaching the bottom of the movement, he hit a mechanical bottleneck. Hindi na siya makatayo. Let's be clear. Zero acute injury detected. This was a pure deficit in biomechanical strength and functional capacity. Ang kanyang legs simply lacked the power-to-weight ratio to lift his own current mass. It took an external intervention kailangan siyang i-assist ng kapitbahay para lang makabanggon. A public audit of his physical decline performed right in front of his 9-year-old son. The emotional ROI of this moment, absolute zero. Nang gabing iyon, Chris experienced a total paradigm shift. Hindi lang ito basta yak. It was a visceral reaction to his internal bankruptcy. After that public failure, his ego didn't just crack, it underwent a complete structural collapse. He realized that the core memory being encoded into his son's neural pathways was a narrative of incompetence, ang tatay ko ay mahina. From a legacy standpoint, this is the worst possible data point to leave behind for your next generation. Pumasok ang kanyang asawa, acting as the primary stakeholder who can no longer ignore the inefficiency. She provided a candid assessment. Chris, this isn't just about weight anymore. Your current operational state is unsustainable. You need professional-grade intervention. Kinabukasan, he initiated a diagnostic call to Marcus, an outlier in their social circle, who successfully optimized his physical metrics and shed 30 kilos of excess payload through systematic discipline. Chris was looking for a silver bullet, a pill, a fadiyet, a shortcut to bypass the hard work. But Marcus provided a high-level strategic insight. Chris, 0 medications were involved. This wasn't a tactical fix. It was a total upgrade of my life's operating system. Let's pivot to Chapter 2, the behavioral architect. Dito natin ay deconstruct ang mental framework ni Dr. Yamamoto, ang specialist na mag-overhaul sa current operating system ni Chris. 0 clinical smell, 0 anatomy posters. Ang environment ni Yamamoto ay ultra-minimalist, optimized for deep work. He looks less like a GP and more like a Zen monk performing a system audit in a corporate boardroom. In-audit ni Chris ang kanyang current state. Raw data on weight gain, chronic burnout levels, at yung psychological deficit pagkatapos ng insidente sa garden. Total system failure with 0 ROI on his energy spend. Instead of a prescription, Yamamoto initiated a deep dive diagnostic query, direct and data-driven. What is your historical track record? How many times have you attempted to recalibrate your weight and failed? The data was consistent. Chris tried 3, 4 times. A typical pattern of high-intensity sprints followed by a hard crash. Maximum sustainability. Just 2 weeks before his personal infrastructure reverted to legacy habits, dito na nagsimulang mag-enumerate si Chris ng kanyang mga standard external attributions. Inisa-isa niya ang lack of bandwidth dahil sa traffic sa EDSA, biological predispositions tulad ng genetics, at ang kanyang plateauing metabolism after years of Noche Buena overindulgence. Typical corporate victim mindset, pero biglang nag-interject ang doc. Sabi niya, stop. This is a strategic failure. Nabigo ka hindi dahil sa external factors, kundi dahil sinubukan mong ipanalo ang isang 40-year war of attrition. Sa loop lang ng isang short-term, 2-month sprint. Your KPIs were unrealistic from the start. Analyze the timeline. Inabot ng 4 na dekada para masement ang neural pathways ng iyong mga bad habits mula sa sedentary lifestyle hanggang sa stress eating. Do you really believe you can rewire that entire legacy architecture in just a few weeks of sheer willpower? That's not how neuroplasticity works. Then, the doctor presented a new behavioral protocol. It was a micro-optimization so small, it almost sounded like a joke. Isang incremental change na walang kahit anong friksyon. designed to bypass your brain's natural resistance to change ang instruction. Bawat umaga, pagising mo, bago ka mag-check ng Slack o maglakad papuntang sari-sari store, iinom ka lang ng isang basong tubig. Iyon lang ang kailangang i-deliver. Zero complexity. High consistency. The first step to structural realignment, naghintay si Chris for the next high-impact deliverable, but nil. Walang complex roadmap. Just one glass of water for 14 days straight. Zero dietary restrictions. No caloric deficits. Just an operational baseline. Nagprotesta si Chris. Doc, I need to shed 50 kilos to reach my health KPIs. This glass of water has zero statistical significance sa aching weight loss trajectory, waste of resources too. Sumagot si Doc Yamamoto. Correct. Physically, the ROI is negligible, pero this is about self-integrity auditing. Pinatutunayan natin sa system mo na kaya mong i-execute ang isang self-contract ng walang failure. Umalis si Chris, experiencing massive cognitive dissonance. He paid a premium consultation fee just to be told to hydrate. Parang nag-hire kang McKinsey consultant para lang ayusin ang display sa sari-sari store. Nungit yung concept ng honoring a promise became a mental loop. In-audit niya ang sarili. Ilang Lunes na ba ang sinira niya? This wasn't about nutrition. It was about fixing his default rate of broken commitments kinabukasan. Exactly. 0500 hours. The initial trigger was activated. Nakita ni Chris ang baso ng tubig ang ating low-friction variable. Ininom niya. No resistance, no negotiation. Execution completed. Day 2, the same parameters were applied. Day 3, the protocol was maintained. Pagdating ng ikapitong araw, isang neural adaptation ang naganap. We are no longer looking at willpower. We are looking at system automation. Nag-prim na ang kanyang biological clock. He woke up 120 seconds before the alarm, and his brain actively sought the stimulus. Nagsimula ng mabuo ang expectation loop, ang biological basis ng consistency. Sa ika-14 na araw, bumalik siya for a performance review. Statistically, walang nabawas sa body mass index niya. Pero look at the qualitative metrics. 100% compliance. For the first time in his career as a breadwinner, hindi siya nag-file sa sarili niya. Ngumiti ang doktor. You've unlocked the primary principle, Kaizen. Hindi ito tungkol sa drastic transformasyon. It's about microscopic changes that ensure long-term scalability. You are now ready for level 2. Look at the architecture of failure, trying to vault over a massive wall using pure willpower. In our framework, we don't scale walls. We build micro stairs. Hindi mo inaya ang pader ng isahan. Gumawa kang mali na habang na walang cognitive resistance sa utak mo. We eliminated the friction entirely to ensure 100% execution. This is what we classify as a keystone habit, ang isang maliit. Napanalo is not just an isolated event. It triggers a cascade effect sa iyong buong behavioral system. By mastering the 5 a.m. water protocol, you've optimized your neural circuitry to accept new commands without the usual self-sabotage. Now we introduce the next parameter in our behavioral recalibration. Tuloy ang hidrasyon protocol. Pero ngayon, modify your consumption metrics. Bawasan mong 50% ang ilalagay mong kanin at ulam sa iyong unang salang. We are not starving you. We are simply recalibrating your portion size baseline. Here is the golden rule for metabolic signaling. Pwede kang kumuha ulit if you are genuinely hungry. Pero kailangan mong maghintay ng exactly 20 minutes pagkatapos ng unang plato. We are giving the leptin hormones enough transit time to tell your brain, "Boss, busog na tayo." It's biology, not just discipline. Welcome to Chapter 3, Hara Hachi Bu, the ancient art of 80% satiety. It sounds simple on a PowerPoint, but during the first week, Chris encountered heavy psychological resistance. Ang sanay sa extra rice culture ng Manila. Biglang naharap sa gutom-stress paradox. Observe the neurological dissonance. Ang dopamine receptors ni Chris ay nasa full-blown panic mode, triggering a hunger crisis. Pagkatapos NG 10 oras na shift sa BGC, sumisigaw ang utak niya for a quick caloric fix. Pero he executed a tactical pause, waiting for the 2-0 minute biochemical recalibration data audit for the last 21 days. Chris only yielded to the temptation of seconds twice. This isn't biological starvation. It's a recalibration of spoiled gastric receptors na nasanay sa excessive fiesta, style servings, and emotional eating during his commute. Let's break down the physiological lag. The Hara Hachi Bu protocol leverages the 2-0 minute latency period between gastric distension and brain signaling. By stopping at 80% capacity, you bypass the postprandial somnolence, ang food coma na pumapatay sa productivity ng mga Pinoy breadwinners. KPI check. Chris registered a 3 kilograms reduction in his baseline weight, but per the Yamamoto optimization framework, weight is a lagging indicator, isang secondary metric lang. Ang real victory dito ay ang velocity ng kanyang lifestyle vector. Direction over magnitude, always. Post-implementation feedback from Chris. I feel in control. This signifies the restoration of his internal locus of control. Sa gitna ng traffic at corporate chaos, nakuha niya ang agency over his own biology. This is the foundation of sustainable transformation, phase 3 of our systemic optimization. We are introducing a new low-friction variable, integrated movement. Hindi. Ito high-intensity cardio. Ang instruction ay simple, maglakad mula sa pinto hanggang sa gate o sa pinakamalapit na sari-sari store every day. Chris exhibited initial skepticism. 20 meters? Laughable. Pero ayon sa clinical logic, ang objective ay hindi aggressive caloric burn, kundi ang pagrebud ng movement intent habit loop sa neuropathways niya. By the third iteration, we observed a positive externality. Nakita siya ng anak niya. Sumama ang bata sa routine. It shifted from a solo mechanical task into a collaborative engagement, walking hand in hand toward the gate. In those few meters, high-value data sync occurred. His daughter updated him about school events. These are critical data points na dati niyang nami-miss dahil sa cognitive overload at chronic fatigue, gailing sa office, dahil sa increased user engagement from his daughter, the scope expanded naturally. Humaba ang lakad hanggang sa park. No shortness of breath. Zero injury risk. Just pure organic habituation, scaling up without the need for willpower. At the end of Q2 of his personal transformation, 8 kilos ang na-liquidate niya. But the real data point here isn't the scale, it's the massive shift sa kanyang psychological baseline and self-efficacy metrics. Dr. Yamamoto conducted a strategic deep dive. Tinanong niya si Chris, what is your root operational motive beyond the aesthetics? Ano ang core objective mo for this lifestyle deployment? Chris performed a long-term forecast. Gusto niyang ma-witness ang lahat ng growth milestones ng mga anak niya. He wants the physical capacity to walk his daughter down the aisle. That's high-stakes emotional ROI. Iyon ang tinatawag nating ikigai. Your reason for being. In this framework, the excess weight is no longer the main problem. It's just an operational bottleneck hindering your ultimate purpose. Bilang analyst, we must recognize that motivation is a depleting asset. It's like a phone battery in a 4-hour Zoom call. Pero ang ikigai, that's a renewable energy source for sustainable change. Quarterly performance review. Chris has liquidated 14 kilograms. Data looks promising. Pero let's be objective. Change is never a linear trajectory. Kahit ang pinaka-robust na system, nakakaranas ng volatility. Enter the high-risk variable, the Filipino Noche Buena. This is a high-density caloric environment where the cultural infrastructure is optimized for overconsumption. It's an external stress test for any dietary protocol. Dito napapasok ang social compliance bias. In our collectivist culture, individual discipline is often viewed as a threat to social cohesion. May sakit ka ba? And Pasko naman are not just phrases, they are auditory triggers for cognitive dissonance. System failure initiated under the weight of social pressure. Chris experienced a massive regression. The catalyst? Social validation over health metrics. Metabolic load reached peak capacity as he overrode his biological satiety signals. Post-event analysis reveals a surge in cortisol and psychological shame. The default programming of a corporate breadwinner kicks in. Nasira ko na ang streak ko. might as well terminate the whole project. It's the classic what the hell effect. Chris initiated a panic-driven intervention na trigger ang emergency protocol na itinuro ni Dr. Yamamoto. Next send siya ng message, Doc, it's a total systemic failure. Nasira ko ang lahat ng progress ko. He was summoned for an emergency consultation. Inasahan ni Chris ang isang harsh performance review o reprimand for his caloric surplus. Pero the expert analyst asked for basic baseline metrics. Uminom ka bang tubig today? Did you maintain your mobility walk? Chris confirmed the KPIs. Yes. Naglakad ako. The doctor's verdict? In that case, the system is still operational. Hindi ka bumagsak. This is just a minor friction point na dapa ka lang. In high-level behavioral mechanics, we must distinguish momentary regression from system shutdown. Ang pagkadapa is just a variance in the data. Ang paginto is the actual termination of the goal-seeking program. Dito natin ginagamit ang philosophy ng wabi-sabi. It's the acceptance of imperfection in the process. Ang isang outlier day ng overeating is statistically insignificant against 3 months of sustained consistency. Sa puntong ito, nawasak ang illusion of perfection. Sa isip ni Chris, in our data model, perfection is an outlier, isang statistical noise na sumisira sa long-term scalability. Hindi mo kailangang maging perfecto, kailangan mo lang maintain ang operational continuity kahit may system glitch. Enter the concept of Gambaru. Sa corporate world, ito ang resilience protocol. It's about navigating the discomfort of the latency period, yung awkward phase ng pagbabalik sa routine, matapos ang isang major relapse like a Noche Buena binge. Over the next quarter, we observed minor edge cases, a birthday party relapse, stress eating sa gitna ng EDSA traffic, at mga extra rice moment. But the trend remained bullish. Bakit? Dahil bawa downtime ay sinundan agad ng a system reboot. Every failure was just a data point, not a shutdown. Neural plasticity in action. Narewire ang kanyang default settings. Hindi na tayo nag-opt out sa system pag nagkamali. We just execute the recovery protocol. This is the ultimate optimization of the human psyche. Ika-6 na buwan, a total mass reduction of 23 kilos. Pero ang true ROI, it's not the weight, it's the increased operational capacity nang maglaro siya ng taguan kasama ang anak niya nang hindi kinakapos ng hininga. That's the real dividend of consistency. Nakita itong kanyang asawa, ang primary stakeholder ng kanyang wellness journey. Ang lalaking pinakasalan niya, ang core essence nito is finally rebooting. This isn't just about the physical metrics, it's a soul restoration within the household ecosystem. Chapter 5, Identity Architecture. Ika-6 na buwan, a total 13 kilo deficit. Hindi na siya naglalakad dahil sa external discipline, kundi dahil integrated na ito sa kanyang internal operating system. It's no longer a task, it's a default state. Analyzing this graph, identity versus outcome. Hindi na siya isang matabang lalaki na nakda-diet. He has transitioned into isang lalaking inalakan ang kanyang sarili. We call this identity-based habit formation, the highest level of behavioral scalability. The doctor outlined the strategic framework using a 5-circle Venn diagram, Ikigai for purpose alignment, Kaizen for that 1% incremental growth, at Harahachibu for nutritional volume control. Total system integration, completing the stack with Wabi-Sabi for error handling and Gambaru for high-stress resilience. Ito ay hindi lang isang weight loss system, kundi isang full-stack lifestyle optimization engine. The ROI is beyond health, it's total life mastery, ika-12 buwan. Ang quantitative data ni Chris ay nagpakita ng 100% success rate. Bumawsek ang cholesterol levels, nag-normalize ang blood pressure. At ang blood sugar ay nasa optimal range na. We are looking at a total metabolic recalibration. The physician was visibly baffled by the rapid improvement in his biomarkers. Anong protocol ang sinunot mo? Tanong niya. Chris just gave a playful smirk and said, uminom lang po akong tubig. Doc, a minimalist response to a complex systemic overhaul. In reality, it's simple, arithmetic. 365 iterations of optimal hydration plus 365 cycles of the Hara-Hachibu principle plus 365 units of intentional movement. This is the compound interest of health, isang high-yield investment na nag-mature na. Hindi siya naging fitness model archetype, may visible loose skin, reminders of his previous heavy-set architecture, pero in the mirror, he saw a high-integrity individual, isang lalaking tumupad sa kanyang internal service level agreement, Wabi-Sabi in action, month 18. Total weight reduction of 52 kilograms. Kitang-kita ang high-impact mobility niya habang nakikipaghabulan sa mga bata sa birthday ng anak niya. No more shortness of breath. Purely high-performance living. May lumapit sa kanya. Pare, paano mo na-achieve yan? Hindi na siya nagdip-dive sa intricate Japanese terminologies or complex philosophy. Simple lang ang key takeaway niya. One step at a time, literally, parang pahalakat lang sa bahasa at sa isang hakbang. Bago ang susunod na strategic move. Sabi ng asawa niya, ang significant oroy ng transformation mo, hindi lang yung physical aesthetics, kundi ang presensya mo. Nandito ka na talaga sa moment, hindi na mentally occupied ng corporate burnout, bilang analyst, kailangan nating i-corroborate ito sa neurobiological data. Ayon sa Stanford researchers, Ang drastic change ay tinitingnan ng utak bilang systemic threat. It triggers a physiological flight or fight response, ngunit ang microscopic changes ay nag-evade sa resistance alarms ng amygdala. It's like stealth technology. Nai-hack mo ang sarili mong defense mechanisms nang hindi nagtitrigger ng cortisol spike. Tingnan natin ang benchmarks sa blue zones. Gaya ng Okinawa, hindi sila dependent sa extreme protocols. Instead, they optimize for moderate, sustainable systems, the ultimate operational framework for longevity. Data from London, neuroscientists confirm, ang willpower ay isang finite, depletable resource. Isipin mo, pakherapos na tedlong oras na standstill se ilse drain na ang cognitive battery mo. But when you shift from external motivation to an internal identity-based habit, the friction goes to zero. You no longer need willpower because the system is automated. Ang transformation ni Chris created a massive spillover effect. In-apply niya ang Kaizen framework, yung philosophy of continuous incremental gains sa kanyang corporate workflow. Hindi lang health ang nag-optimize, even his professional KPIs skyrocketed. He didn't just meet expectations. He achieved a scalable career pivot to regional manager. Even their relationship architecture underwent a total redesign. In-apply nila ang feedback loop sa kanilang komunikasyon, moving from transactional arguments to collaborative growth. They stopped being roommates surviving the grind and started being strategic partners in development. Ito ang core truth. Ang transformation ay permissive. It radiates outward. When you optimize your own life, you are effectively providing a social proof, isang lisensya para sa mga tao sa paligid mo na i-question ang kanilang status quo at mag-pivot din. The data doesn't lie. Ang kanyang 14 anyos na anak nag-start na strength training ang asawa niya. She integrated meditation into her morning routine. Bakit? Because they saw a functional, sustainable system in action. They didn't need a pep talk. They needed to see the ROI of change 2 years post-transformation. Si Krishna ang gold standard ng incremental optimization. Kapag may nagtatanong sa kanya, how to lose weight, he bypasses the macro strategy and asks, what is the minimum viable action na kaya mong i-execute consistently ngayong araw? The market is saturated with dopamine-driven magic pills and 2 one-day hyper-growth fixes. Pero statistical reality shows that the 10% who prioritize foundational baselines tulad ng simpleng pag-inom ng tubig sila ang nag-achieve ng sustainable scalability. During his final exit interview, Dr. Yamamoto noted, the biological potential was already endogenous. Chris didn't need a miracle. He needed a structured procedural framework to unlock the latent power within his own physiology. Araf-araf. You navigate the friction of Metro Manila traffic and the high-pressure load of being a breadwinner. you already possess Gambaru or resilience. It's just a case of resource misallocation. Stop fighting the symptoms and rechannel that grit into systemic identity shifts. Sa sala nila, the empirical evidence is undeniable. On one side, the 1-4-2 kilo version in a sedentary loop. On the other, the 8-kilo regional manager with the physical capacity to carry his son. Success isn't a feeling, it's a structural realignment of your daily variables. Sabi ngang anak niya sa school, ang tatay ko ang pinaka-disiplinadong tao na kilala ko. Hindi dahil sa maskulado siya, but because he mastered the art of the systemic rebound, natuto siyang bumangon ulit every time his personal KPIs dropped. Ang tunay na legacy is not your physical aesthetic, kundi ang hard data. Proof na ang transformational change is dependent on identity building, isang high-yield, maliit na desisyon araw-araw. Ngayon, let's apply this behavioral data to you. Kung nandito ka pa sa video, it means you have a specific segment of your life na kailangan ng optimization. You're looking for that breakthrough ROI in your personal growth. Marahil, you think your case is statistically unique, na mas complex ang personal trauma mo. But the systemic flaw is universal. You're trying to overhaul your entire operating system all at once, which leads to immediate crash and burn. Hindi mo kailangan ng 30 days of extreme, unsustainable transformation. You need 30 years of consistent, low-friction habits. It starts with being ridiculously small, young, laughably tiny progress that the ego hates but the system loves. Ibibigay ko sa inyo ang Yamamoto Protocol para sa granular execution. Pumili ka ng isang change na laughably small at zero friction. Isang basong tubig pekgising. Isang push-up bagel mag-commute. O isang pahina NG libro. It's about minimizing the barrier to entry. Run this sequence for 14 days straight. Strict adherence to the baseline, walang idadagdag. We are not optimizing for intensity yet. We are optimizing for reliability. Patunayan mo sa sarili mo na. You can honor a micro-promise without fail. Ang self-efficacy na mabibuild mo rito is the structural foundation of your new identity. Ang oras ay isang non-renewable resource. Lilipas din ito regardless of your output. In the next 5-year fiscal cycle, do you want to be the same person or the upgraded version? Kung tinatanggap mo ang operational challenge na ito, ay comment sa ibaba ang iyong 1 micro habit starting tomorrow. We are putting this on public record para ma-activate ang accountability bias MO. Let the community audit your progress. Babalikan ko ang data points sa comments niyo in 2 weeks to check the compliance rate. Maging present. Maglakad ng may dangle at sundan ang standard operating procedure. Deployment concluded. Hanggang sa muli.